So Modern Warfare 2 is finally here, and I've had some time to play it, so I think now is a good time to give some very early thoughts and impressions on the game. Before that though, I know it's been a long time since I posted a video. My work and personal lives have been pretty crazy and busy lately, and I just had to go on a trip for my job to attend a conference. But now I'm back, and I just wanted to thank everyone for being so patient and understanding. It can be shockingly annoying and difficult to maintain a relatively demanding life outside of YouTube, while also trying to keep some semblance of a normal upload schedule. I'll try to get things sorted and organized a bit better so I can bring content more regularly. Just know that during those longer periods of no videos, I am thinking about you all and thinking about the content I want to post. So thanks again, and let's get into Modern Warfare 2. I'm not really going to be harping much on bugs that I've encountered. I know crashing on PC is a pretty big issue right now with NVIDIA drivers, so if you're running into crashing, the recommended workaround right now is to roll back your drivers until the developers get a fix out. I believe they've also fixed the party issues that were in the game. Let me know if you've had any issues with that so far. While it does suck that bugs are just a fact of life during the launch of modern games, I'm confident the prominent ones will get ironed out, and on the plus side, Modern Warfare 2 has been relatively low on bugs in my playtime, though that is a limited amount of time, especially compared to the mess that was Vanguard. So if all you're looking for is whether or not the game is technically in a good place for launch, I'd say yeah, other than the crashing issue. Most of my thoughts from a big picture perspective are pretty much the same as the beta. I'll link my video on the Modern Warfare 2 beta in the description if you want to watch it. Honestly, very little has changed, but I'll run through some of my specific thoughts. From an audio perspective, the volume of gunfire and overhead vehicles like helicopters is ear-splittingly loud. Like, it actually hurts my ears, and I have the game volume set to 55 out of 100. Normally, I just turn it down further like I did with Modern Warfare 2019, but if I turn it down any further, I feel like I might struggle to hear the footsteps as clearly. So I'm really just left with a choice of incredibly uncomfortable volume in order to hear footsteps clearly, or having a more comfortable volume, but taking the huge disadvantage of impairing my ability to hear people coming. I don't know if I'm just imagining things, but the footsteps in the launch version of the game actually feel a little more muddled than they did in the beta. I know they made some changes to the distance at which you can hear footsteps, but there is something that feels a little bit off about the footstep audio in the launch version of this game. Visually, the game looks very similar to Modern Warfare 2019, but with a really bad menu system and stiff-looking animations. This game in general just looks and feels very stiff compared to the previous Modern Warfare. I do prefer the art direction here. Maps have a lot more color and contrast without being too cartoony. Visibility is a lot better, but a lot of the player animations in first person look really wooden. Though I will say the death animations look very good. Infinity Ward has built this reputation as being the Call of Duty developer with the best visuals and great animation quality, but something honestly feels a bit off here. I think part of that stiff feeling will be due to the changes in movement, with slide canceling and bunny hopping being essentially eliminated. Personally, I do enjoy this change. I always felt that Modern Warfare 2019 had taken movement a bit too far into the realm of mover shooters like Titanfall, though obviously not quite to that degree, but the animations just look off. I don't know if it's the transitions or the speed or how to describe it exactly, but the reload animations and the sprint and tactical sprint animations have this jerky, stiff look to them. It honestly almost reminds me of World War III, a game with animations I've criticized multiple times. Generally, animation quality and the feeling of the game feels like a bit of a step back here, if I'm being honest. Most multiplayer modes are downright terrible, especially anything with respawning. The spawn system here is god-awful, as it seems is the new standard in Call of Duty, and the server tick rate means we all have to suffer through shooting an enemy 4 or 5 times, only to die by what feels like a one tap, but then watching the kill cam and seeing that they've been shooting at you for a while and it was just never visually represented from your perspective. Also, plenty of moments of running around a corner and feeling like you've escaped an enemy shooting in your direction, only to die after you've rounded the corner. These behaviors have always been an unfortunate presence in Call of Duty with its terrible tick rates, but they feel even more pronounced in a game that is slower, campier, and with a lightning fast TTK. If Modern Warfare actually wants to be a more tactical FPS, they need to have server performance that players can rely on and that enables them to make reactive decisions. I did play plenty of Search and Destroy, and that mode feels a lot better than the other multiplayer modes. The lack of respawning in rounds alleviates the biggest pain point for the franchise, and the punishing SBMM isn't as big of a deal to me here since I've always thought of Search and Destroy as the most competitive way to play. Ground War's a mixed bag. I think it has some potential, but there are some annoyances. Kill streaks still feel super out of place here, and the higher player count just means there's a constant barrage of UAVs and counter UAVs from both sides. Vehicles are also incredibly oppressive, and infantry combat is surprisingly rare. Generally, much like the previous game, I think this mode is a swing and a miss, but it's something that could be good if more time was put into the experience. The multiplayer maps in general are pretty decent. They're nothing special, but they just feel god tier compared to what we had in the previous Modern Warfare. They're still a little too porous and large in my opinion, and they're definitely skewed towards stationary playstyles, but moving around isn't nearly as dangerous before. One small change from the beta that I really enjoy is that spectating allies now offers the choice of the traditional first-person perspective and the new helmet cam. I much prefer the older style. The helmet cam gives me a massive headache, but I'm super happy that we have the choice. The Gunsmith is fine, it's a bit confusing and tedious to work through. I still think Modern Warfare 2019 has had the best Gunsmith of any of the modern Call of Duties, striking the best balance of depth without being overly complex, lots of options without getting decision fatigue, and the right amount of limitations on attachments that force the player to make decisions when building a gun. Modern Warfare 2, I think it's stepped just slightly too far into the complex side of things, and it's really not helped by the terrible menus and UI in this game. It's really strange to me that they went from some of the most intuitive and easiest to use menus in the previous games to this nonsense. I know I've been pretty harsh on the game so far, but I do want to make something clear. I don't think Modern Warfare 2 is a bad game. I think it's a fairly mediocre, maybe slightly above average game on its own merits in a vacuum. I definitely think I'll get a month or two of solid play out of it before I get bored. I do think it's a terrible Call of Duty game in the sense that Call of Duty has an identity as an arcade shooter, but I think it's clear at this point that Modern Warfare doesn't really want to be Call of Duty anymore, at least not in that traditional sense, and a lot of the decisions leave it in a strange spot for me. Most of the changes in mechanics like swimming and ledge hanging and toned down movement and increased visual recoil are obviously intended more for Warzone and DMZ than they are for multiplayer, and I think those more tactical aspects will really shine there. But in multiplayer, Modern Warfare 2 sits in a bizarre spot where it's a fairly forgettable arcade shooter that's slowed down way more than it needs to be, but it's also not really a memorable tactical shooter, being bogged down by a lot of arcade cheats. And it's obvious that multiplayer is nothing more than an afterthought at this point. It's just something to get people to buy into ranking guns early for Warzone and DMZ to have that early edge. I'd like to see multiplayer and Battle Royale get separated more in the future so that they can succeed based on their own merits and not just prop up one at the cost of another. But that about does it for me for my thoughts on Modern Warfare 2, and I want to hear from all of you. Have you had a chance to play the game, and if so, what do you think of it so far? If you previously played Call of Duty and have moved away from the series, why do you think that is, and what have you been playing instead? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, and if you didn't, leave a dislike so I know I need to change something. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Mission complete. Solid work.